Story 1. Do not shake open spice containers over a steaming pot or pan. The condensed steam will create a moist environment that will cause your spices to clump and go bad faster. Story 2. Cooking temperature descriptors like low and medium are not meant to correlate to numbers on the stovetop burner setting. Just because your knob has settings from 1 to 5, that doesn't mean 3 is medium. Not only are those not intended to be correlated, but you may also need to adjust your burner setting throughout the cooking process to maintain a cooking temperature. For example, adding a new cool ingredient drops the temperature, so you may want to turn the burner up to bring it back up to temperature quicker. Conversely, water boiling off helps keep a pan's temperature cooler. So once enough water boils away, your pan's temperature may start to rapidly climb. Story 3. Sometimes you need to deviate from the recipe. It sounds super simple, but many beginner cooks get hung up on what the recipe says and frustrated when theirs doesn't turn out. Depending on your stove, cookware, and other factors, you sometimes have to adjust things. If you taste it and the recipe said you've added enough salt, but you think it's not enough, add that salt. Story 4. For what it's worth, I have been in the culinary industry for almost 10 years. I recommend picking up some basic knife skills. Not only will it make your food look and taste better to have more consistently sized ingredients, but it will keep your hands safe from cuts. It might save you a finger or two next time you try to dice an onion. Sharpening and honing your knives is also very important. It doesn't matter if it's a cheap Costco knife or a Japanese sushi knife, you should be honing your blade 10 to 12 times on each side after every 10 minutes of use. Get yourself a $15 honer off of Amazon, and I guarantee you'll make your money back by not spending it on new knives every time yours get dull. Story 5. When cooking beef, dry the meat as best as possible and add it to a hot pan. Slowly cooking beef releases a lot of moisture, which doesn't allow browning or flavor to happen. Use a tea kettle to get water to boil faster than your stovetop. Story 6. Salt and oatmeal, vodka in pie crust. Vinegar or lemon splash in every dish before it goes to the table. More salt. Corn flour on potatoes for crispiness. More salt. Story 7. Whatever the recipe says about garlic or vanilla, it's not enough. No, I don't mean another quarter teaspoon. I mean maybe double it and then see if it tastes okay yet. Story 8. Prep everything before you start. Taste your food as you go. Use fresh ingredients, they make a difference. Don't forget the salt, but don't overdo it. Let meat rest before cutting it. Keep recipes simple. Less is more. Mistakes happen. Just learn from them. They've worked for me. Story 9. You can either wash your hands multiple times throughout the cooking process, or wash your hands multiple times after the contents of your stomach debate which end to jump out of first. Story 10. Mise en place. Have everything measured and cut before you start cooking. Buy a well-balanced knife and sharpen it regularly. Watch some ingredient cutting techniques on YouTube. They will profoundly change your cooking experience. Patience and lower temperatures will reduce stress and enhance taste. Taste regularly and season properly. Start simple with ingredients you like. Story 11. My life was changed when I bought a pepper mill. Freshly ground pepper makes the dishes so good. Just don't overdo it. Also, this might not be a good tip for you, but when I lived alone, I didn't have much stuff, just what I needed. This way, I made sure to always keep my utensils clean. I was not allowed to pile them dirty. Story 12. A pinch of something is not the smallest, daintiest speck you can get in your fingers. It's the absolute maximum quantity you can manage to pick up in one go with your fat fingers. Otherwise, your food will taste underseasoned and bland. Story 13. If you want to be a proficient cook, you need to start by learning to make a series of basic meal components and string them together to make a meal. Then, learn how to make some other basic meals. Learn how to make a basic green salad using something other than iceberg lettuce. Add some other greens, vegetables, onion, and tomato. Find 1 or 2 different high-quality salad dressings. At some point, you might make your own dressings, but you don't need to start there. You can actually turn a salad into a well-balanced, filling meal by adding croutons, crumbled or strips of cheese, and pieces of fried or roasted chicken. Once you have a basic salad, you can do so much more with it. The next step is to learn how to prepare pasta. Find a spaghetti variety that you like and make it. Adding a little butter, some sprinkled garlic powder, and a smidgen of Italian seasoning, that's a meal. Keep repeating and learning how to make things that are really easy and are basic components of a meal. Story 14. Buy the plastic wrap that comes in 18 by 30 foot rolls from Sam's, Costco, or a restaurant supply. Everything else is garbage. I cook a lot and keep multiple freezers full of ingredients bought in bulk, and the rolls last me about a year. Story 15. Try to understand the purpose of every step. For example, the purpose of browning mince is to reduce the water content and increase the concentration of flavor. Story 16. If you want the best recipes for Italian food, search for what you want but add the word nana's to the front of it. Nana means grandma in Italian. For example, Nana's tomato sauce recipe. You'll get the goods this way. Story 17. Foolproof way to cook rice. 1 part of rice, 2 parts of water. Salt the water and put it on the stove. Wash the rice. Once the water boils, pour the rice in, stir, add the lid, and turn off the stove. Leave it for 25 minutes while you prepare the other parts of the meal. Meatballs. If your meatballs look gray coming out of the pan, put them in the oven at 200 degrees Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 10 minutes for an amazing brown glaze. Story 18. When you cook a dish for the first time, start cooking at 7 p.m. Why? If you mess up, there is still a restaurant open. Seriously, it is difficult when you cook late at night, end up hungry with a bad dish, and cannot even order a pizza. Story 19. Especially when cooking a recipe for the first time, allow enough time. Prepare all your ingredients first. Avoid the panic of chopping ingredients while others are burning. At every opportunity, clean utensils, bowls, knives, and benches as you go. Don't work in a cluttered mess. Story 20. You can fix any sauce if you temper it. Cornstarch, flour, hot water, and lemon will all fix a broken sauce. Add these to a ramekin of sauce, stir, and then add to the pan. Story 21. Has anyone already mentioned reading the whole recipe through before you start cooking? Nothing like realizing something needs to chill for an hour in between steps, or a certain ingredient needed to be pre-cooked or prepped. Story 22. Not profound, but I made a simple improvement to cheese on toast and find it very difficult to go back. Butter your toast. Top with grated cheese. Add some chopped red onion, optional. Sprinkle liberally with smoked paprika. Grill. The smoked paprika melts along with the cheese, and aside from the added flavor, it looks amazing. Lastly, add lots of pepper. Story 23. My rice, white or brown, is perfection every time. I never rinse or wash it. I put it in a pot, add twice the water or broth, and a dash of olive oil. Boil and then simmer with the lid on for however long feels right. I get comments on it all the time. Story 24. Never attempt to fry something in a cold pan or in cold oil. Heat up both the pan and the oil or butter if that is what you are using. And if frying in butter, heat it up so that all of the water in the butter gets cooked off before you add your food. And it is okay to keep butter at room temperature. Just keep the butter covered. Story 25. Learn how to use spices and seasonings well, and I am not talking about pre-made meal kits. My dinners are almost always chicken and vegetables, but they are seasoned differently all the time so I never get bored. For example, last night was black bean sauce, the night before was curry. Also, consider buying spices in bulk here in Australia. It is about the same price for 500 grams of some spices as it is for a tiny shaker bottle of the same spice. Story 26. Let your pan and oil, butter, or fat heat completely before cooking. It's just 30 to 60 extra seconds, but it ends up searing and frying better. Let your meat rest for just a few minutes before cutting or serving. Story 27. Low with a lid cooks just as well as medium but won't burn your food. If the food is not held to heat for at least 10 minutes, you are not cooking. You are warming your food up. You cannot flavor a turkey by seasoning the skin. Put citrus, bacon, garlic, and rosemary inside the bird, and then roast it. Let it cool, pull the fruit and bacon out, and then put the bread stuffing in. The steam will flavor the meat. Jasmine rice is the best rice and worth the slight extra cost. Story 28. Get a crock-pot multi-cooker and a rice cooker. When you do not want to cook, make salmon and rice. It feels like someone else cooked it for you when it is finished. Story 29. 1. Use fresh ingredients. Quality ingredients make a huge difference. Season as you go. Layering flavors creates depth. Let meat rest. It keeps juices in for better flavor. Don't overcrowd the pan. This helps food cook evenly and brown properly. Taste as you cook. Adjust flavors throughout to perfect the dish. Story 30. Think before you do. I mean this to say, have your ingredients prepared before you heat the first pan. Have your spices, seasonings, and herbs ready. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. The biggest thing I learned in approximately 10 years in restaurants is simple. It's not always going to go how you planned. Be ready to make modifications, season at every step, and for the love of everything, taste, taste, taste. Story 31. Understand that many of the fancy descriptions in a menu are also the recipe. From the time when we chefs were a wandering folk, a kitchen advertised a bit by doing this. Come in, are you sober? Can you do this? Story 32. I have found that a portable rechargeable food processor works great and saves time for dicing onions, chilies, and such. Just make sure the bowl it comes with is glass, not plastic. Story 33. Flash off, boil, in the pan, both soy sauce and fish sauce, individually or together. Both of these ingredients reduce and caramelize when treated harshly, resulting in a glorious umami goodness that will stick to whatever else you are cooking. And they both pretty much work with anything. Worcestershire sauce is just spiced fish sauce with tamarind, so even the barbecue and smoking crowd can benefit from the above. Story 34. If you are a beginner cook, sign up for one of the meal prep services for a while, such as Sunbasket, Marley Spoon, or Home Chef. You will have exactly what you need for each recipe, and the instructions are super simple, usually illustrated. Many of them offer huge initial discounts, and all of them allow you to cancel anytime. It is a good way to jumpstart your confidence in the kitchen. Story 35. Taste, touch, and smell everything as often as safe and practical. Knowing an ingredient and how it changes throughout the cooking process is key to mastering it. Season before and after cooking, throughout as well if it feels right. A good knife is an investment that can last a lifetime. Story 36. If cooking with stainless steel, preheat the pan so things don't stick. The pan is hot enough when you put a drop of water, and the water dances on the pan. Use a salad spinner to remove water from the vegetables before cooking so there's less oil splatter. Boiling vinegar can help release the burnt food for easier cleanup. Story 37. You don't have to use the full heat of your stove all the time. Quite the opposite. Most of the time to get your pan hot or get some soup or water to start boiling. A lot of dishes benefit from searing things with lower heat and more time. Story 38. When do you want to eat? Take a look at all the parts you are making and subtract the time needed from your desired dining time. That way, you will know exactly when to start each item. Story 39. If you are cooking for one or two, get a good toaster or air fryer oven. I use mine almost every day for baking potatoes, pizza, homemade, or just warming up toast and grilled cheese sandwiches, and baking cookies. It almost eliminates preheating the oven. Learn to use the timer. It doesn't heat up the house like the oven does. I use mine almost daily. Story 40. Learn to cook by feel. Do you feel like you don't have enough salt? Add more. Don't feel like the basil flavor is going to hit? Add more. Your taste buds will thank you. Story 41. Follow the damn recipe. If it calls for 1 teaspoon of salt, add 1 teaspoon of salt. Not half, not a dash, do not eyeball it. Measure out 1 teaspoon of salt. If it says 30 minutes at 350, then that's what you should do. Do not crank it up to 450 for 20 minutes. So many bad cooks I met refuse to follow recipes and just wing it however they feel and are shocked when it does not come out right. Story 42. When grilling meat, such as fish, beef, pork, chicken, etc. If you need a quick guide to knowing how well something is cooked, go by the palm method. Open your hand and use your middle finger to touch the top of the meat in your palm. next to your thumb. Push down on that area. It is the equivalent feeling of rare, which is suitable only for beef. Move it to the middle of the meat to feel medium rare, and at the heel of your palm, that is well done or thoroughly cooked for fish and chicken. If you can't reach that far down with your finger, you can use your opposing finger as well. I can attest to this method. I've grilled salmon, chicken, pork chops, London broil, ribs, chicken legs, and steaks. I haven't done a test cut and have always achieved the cooking level I wanted. Story 43. Top tips. Allow sauce to reduce and cook. Let residual heat finish cooking. Season at the beginning and throughout the process. Use your palate to balance between sweet, sour, bitter, saltiness, and savory. Add citrus or vinegar to enhance earthy flavors that can be flat. Story 44. Mise en place. Thanks to all the cooking shows I watch, setting up all the ingredients measured out greatly reduces my stress and cooking time compared to trying to get things as you go. Story 45. The key to cooking a great steak is to let it warm up to near room temperature before cooking. If you cook it straight out of the refrigerator, you'll end up with only a thin band of pink in the middle surrounded by a thick band of well done. Story 46. My friend, who is a great home cook, told me that when you put sugar in a dish as part of the recipe, add the saltiness first, such as soy sauce or salt, then taste it, followed by sugar. I tried putting sugar first and then the salty ones. It's okay, but her tip is better. The food tastes better and so good.